warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You know my name. I'm actually a geriatric psychiatrist, so... oh, my name is... Oh, I do, okay. I'm a geriatric psychiatrist, so I'm a subspecialist. So we all train for 5 years in psychiatry, and then we decide to subspecialize, and I decided to subspecialize with seniors, people over the age of 65. But all of us do train with children. We do, we do some training in child psychiatry, child psychology. A lot of my work, even with the seniors, involves working with families. So, of course, stress is stress, whether it comes from working with your parents or whether it comes with your children. We all, as human beings, experience similar problems or similar ways of dealing with stress or struggling with stress. So I think we'll talk about some principles, but before I go there, sisters, do you want to come closer so I can include all of you rather than you in the corner there? And I'd like this to be a little bit interactive if I can, because I find just standing in front of an audience and speaking for half an hour, 45 minutes gets very boring. You kind of tune out after about 20 minutes. And I think for this to be internalized, thank you, thank you. For this to be internalized, I think it's important for people to participate, to be part of the process rather than sitting passively and just listening. So I just want to explore a couple of ideas or a couple of things with the audience. How many of you have children under the age of 5? 1, 2. Between 5, how old are they? She's 5. Oh, just 5. 6, okay. All right, between 5 and 12. All right, and 12 to 15. 12 to 15. 15 to 20. 2, 3. And above 20. Above 30? You still parenting? Yes, you're still parenting, am I right? Okay. So it's quite a variety of parents, variety of ages. So there's different challenges at different ages. And I'm not going to be able to give you a summary of all the ways of, or talk about the particulars of the stress and the ways to deal with stress, because each particular age or age group comes with their own stresses. Am I right? Okay, so, but before we go to the details, I'd like to explore a couple of things about, besides the children, what do you think is challenging for parents? Because before we look at someone else, we've got to look at ourselves. So what are some of the challenges for parents? I know some of you are born here, some of you come from other countries. We all are a minority, and we're Muslim. So what are the challenges we face as a Muslim community in Canada? Whether you first come here or whether you're born here, but particularly for that generation that first came here. Anyone wants to shout out some answers? What are some challenges? Don't be shy, sisters, come on. What challenges do we face as Muslims, as people that come from other countries? What do you think? Cultural differences. So Javed, right? Huh? Shafi. Okay, sorry, Shafi, can you write down cultural differences? Excellent. Anything else? Sister? Maintaining Muslim values, okay. So, yes? What would you call that? Okay, so so that's basically, we call it, are you grieving for that? Are you grieving for those families? Are you missing them and missing them, okay? So missing your previous life, okay. And you said, mentality or approaches, we'll call it approaches and ways of dealing with issues that may be applicable to, there's too much of words, okay, applicable to your country of origin. So you say cultural differences, maintaining a Muslim identity, and the third one was missing family of origin. I'll wait for you. Okay. So very good points. Anything else that we... Sorry? Communication with whom? So you're talking about in this country, your challenges would be... Okay, losing family values. Okay, the family structure changes. The way the family function changes. Okay, all right. The community tends to be not working as a whole. Okay, so disrupted community.
Another hand here.
Yes, sir.
Communication challenges.
Communication challenges with?
The main society.
With the rest of the people in this country. Is that related to language barrier?
Language and also culture too.
Language and cultural. So cultural differences. Language barrier. Okay, put language barrier. Okay. And I think one man said missing the family and bringing your values from country of origin here. Okay. All right. Now, yes, yes, sister? Only parents. So going from an extended family, so loss of the extended family. Yes. Right. Okay. So that's more lack of supports, lack of family support. Okay, so lack of family support. So the structure of the family changes when you come to Canada. So you don't have that support system to back you up like you have in your country of origin. You had your grandparents, you had your uncles and aunts. So sorry, I'm getting a bit distracted. So the whole social structure of your community has changed. How many of you feel alienated even within the Muslim community? I know this is a difficult question and you may be embarrassed to put up your hands, but do you know of anyone that has said, even in the Muslim community, I feel like I don't belong? You ever hear that from anyone? Have you heard that? The young folk, have you heard that? No? No, never heard that. Okay. How many of you only communicate or meet with people of your own, people from your own countries? Most of you do that. Okay. So you stick with your own kind, all right? Converts. Integrated. They haven't integrated, or they don't feel like they're part of the Muslim community. Okay. So many challenges. Okay. So when you look at an issue and you say, I'm having difficulty with parenting, so you are the parent. Okay. So we always have to start with, because I work with families, and even if the family is involved with an adult that has some problem, it's a medical problem, it's a psychological problem, it's a psychiatric problem, the stress and the continual caregiving that you have to provide for the person who needs you. It doesn't matter what the person needs you for. whether it's your aging parents or aging parents with illness, aging parents with dementia, or whether it's a child that has probably no psychological problems, but that child needs the same kind of nurturing and same kind of time and dedication to ensure that you're meeting their needs, okay? And for you to function as a caregiver for anyone else, you have to be in good shape. Am I correct? If you are not in good shape, you're not going to be able to do the job that you were given, the task that you're given to caregive. So, and you all have pointed out to very challenging and very realistic issues that do interfere with your ability or limit your ability to be the type of caregiver you're required to be. Right? Children don't just need the parents. You're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. Children don't need just the parents. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Have you heard that saying? Right? It takes a village to raise a child. So parents working individually with their children and not really knowing what challenges the next person's experiencing. You think, I'm alone in dealing with these issues. I don't know, the sister next to me looks like she's got it together. You know, maybe she's got, the brother next to me seems like he's got it together and he's probably doing a better job than I am, and maybe not feeling the same stress, but you don't really know what goes on in individual homes. A lot of what we see in terms of problems in our community are a symptom of something else, a symptom of a lot of these things. There's more on the list that I can come up with. But it's a symptom. And until we learn how to address the problems, we're not going to be able to find the correct solutions for what we struggle with. So, which one do you want to start with? These are all very relevant issues. Things like maintaining a Muslim identity, for example. That's the main thing on our minds. When we are parents and we come from wherever you come from, even if you're born here and you're a Muslim and you want to impart Muslim Islamic values to your children and make sure that they follow the right path, it's the same struggle. Because whether you are in this country or whether you are in any other country, except for, I shouldn't say except, maybe the countries of majority Muslims, it may not be an issue, but I don't believe so. I think a lot of things still do happen in countries with Muslim majorities in the quiet. It still happens. I know of places in the Middle East where there's alcoholism, there's drug abuse, and drug addiction, there's prostitution, there's child abuse, right? And there's exposure to pornography for our children. There's no control of the media, and there's no control of internet in many countries. So I don't think we should sort of look at ourselves as we are in the West and only we have a battle with these issues, right? Okay. So we have to see this as a universal issue. The difficulty in helping our children maintain a Muslim identity is a challenge everywhere. Okay, you go to any country and you'll see it. The UK, okay, I know in India and Pakistan, our Muslim children are struggling. I know that I think there was a resident I worked with and she studied in UAE. And when she worked in the hospitals there, she told me what she saw, and I was surprised. This is supposed to be, a place where you would expect Muslim values and the Muslim traditions to thrive. But they were also, affected by the social evils that creep into their lives. Okay, so as Canadian Muslims, the two things we have to do, and I heard Imam Ziad say this khutbah after khutbah: you miss your family back home, You know, you miss the support system, you miss the cultural, the culture that you were used to. But when you made a decision to come to Canada, you probably didn't take that into account, that I will feel like a fish out of water, it's going to be different. You know, most people have left because of a very good reason, whether it's economic, whether it is safety issues, you know, wars. Some people were just interested in making sure they stayed alive and the children were safe. So you're not thinking about all of this. You just wanted a safe haven. Am I correct? Yeah. But then when I think the dust settles, and then you have to look at where am I? Where have I landed? What is this place all about? How do I fit in? And how do I maintain my own identity? You know, in places like the US, they talk about assimilation. And when I first came to Canada, there was a lot of talk about assimilating. You should come here and become a Canadian. And what is a Canadian, really? You mean you have to have values that are Eurocentric? I call them Eurocentric. Do you have to have values that are what the majority of people believe in? Or do you remain, or do you maintain your Muslim identity, not necessarily Indian or Palestinian or Pakistani or Bangladesh? Or, you know, we have that, we come from that. We're talking about if you want to maintain a Muslim identity, the first thing you have to do is, that's number one on your list that you have to embrace before you talk about country of origin. Country of origin is important. It's where you come from. It's part of who you are. But you have to learn to integrate and assimilate in the Muslim community. Leave the general Canadian community, you know, that's a different issue. So assimilation means you basically become like a part of a whole, right? Whereas integration means you maintain individual sort of identity, but be able to sort of mix with the rest, but maintaining your individual identity. I don't think it's like it's black and white and it's not this or that, okay? But I think the first thing we need to do, if we're looking for a support system, we have an excellent population of Muslims right here in Barhaven. But the problem with us as Muslims who come from other countries is we do not assimilate. That's the first problem, and that is damaging this. Okay, so you may not be giving your children the right message when you are, you know, you kind of saying, we are this. Okay, we are this community. We're not part of that community. Okay, because of where your grandfather came from or your great-grandfather came from. So as long as we have one foot in another country, you're giving the child the message, you as well do not completely belong here. We belong somewhere else. We like this, okay? As long as we like this, your child's gonna have a dilemma. That's number one. So everything a child learns comes from where? Parents. You are the first teacher they will ever have. You are grooming them from a young age. What you put in that child's mind will remain with them forever. So it's up to you on how you're going to teach your child to be comfortable with themselves and comfortable in their community. That is their village. Am I correct? It's not somewhere in Lebanon. It's not somewhere in Syria, okay? You may have that strong attachment to your country of origin. You may miss your parents and your family of origin, and you may have very strong ties to your culture, but your children may not experience the same thing. It's kind of, you know, culture by proxy. I don't know how to define. Culture by proxy meaning you know, you kind of, where's Imam Ziad? Maybe he can help me. He left? Culture by proxy, like you are telling the child, this is who you are. You from there. You're not from here. I want you to remain like that. I want you to be like your uncles and cousins and whatever from there. Okay, so that creates a lot of difficulty for the child, right? If you're talking about, I'm having difficulty with my children, the first thing is they need to feel secure. All children need to feel secure, need to feel loved, need to feel accepted, and they need to be part of community. You know, I often see children from Catholic families, and I work in small towns in Canada. Sometimes I used to do a lot of work outside Ottawa. I used to go up the valley, I go to Lanark County, and I used to go to small towns. And those communities are very sort of close. And the children that grow up in those communities are very secure, because everybody knows everyone. You're part of a big family, you know? And they trust each other, the doors are open for each other, and they all, you know, have the same kind of values, right? They're not sort of enclosed in little enclaves. I'm a Protestant, I'm a Catholic, I'm a, you know? Or whatever. I'm from a Polish origin, I'm from a German origin, I'm from, you know, they came much before us to this country. People have come from Europe, but different communities in Europe. And they didn't all have the same belief. You know, they came from different groups. And they're very integrated because their communities are small, they accept each other, and they don't have this division amongst themselves. That's number one. I think I've spoken enough about that. Any questions about that piece that I've talked about? No questions? You can criticize what I've said and not agree. It's okay. You can. But even you know, when I come to the mosque, I do see need for more integration. I do. Because that is going to be our glue to keep our community together, to keep our children within our community. Because if they don't feel they belong, guess where they're going? Mm-hmm. Exactly, that's what I mean. Yes, exactly. Integrated, not necessarily integration. Integrated, maybe I used the wrong term for you and you kind of got stuck on the first meaning of integration. I meant more, we have to be united. That's a better term, okay. You know, the other issues that we struggle with is not just cultural differences amongst ourselves, but cultural differences with other groups here, already here, and how do we sort of fit in? And it's not just the parents that struggle with that, it's also the children. They struggle with that every day in school, right? At the bus stop, in your gym, where else do you come across it, where you struggle to sort of, you know, fit in?
Well, like, I think the main deal with like cultural differences is that we tend to confuse cultural differences with maintaining your Muslim identity. We think that their culture is like their religion, our culture is like our religion. We tend to like bind those together. Yeah, so like, I say like they try to you try to keep yourself away from their not say beliefs, but like cultures and things that they do, because you believe that you're gonna lose your Muslim identity from that. So I think that's like the main struggle with that.
saying that. I appreciate it. Okay, so what is our culture in Canada? That's a good question. Anybody wants to take a stab at that? What is our culture? Here. Are we all Canadians? Is everybody Canadian here? Everybody has Canadian citizenship? What is your culture?
My culture? Like where I'm from?
What is your culture?
Like to be Canadian as a culture, or like,
Canadian Muslim?
yeah, I guess. Canadian,
He's saying it because he probably heard it somewhere.
yeah, like Canadian, Bengali, Muslim, I guess.
Canadian, Bengali, Muslim.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to put Canadian first? Not in that order. Okay. If I ask somebody that's a little older than him, what would you say? Sister, what is your culture? Yeah? Good. Good. So you Canadian Muslim. Okay? Mm. So you're a Canadian Muslim. Good. Excellent. 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 So you facing this way. You're not like this. Okay. You're totally here. Is everybody, yes?
I have a question about Canadian.
I have to speak up. I can't hear you. Sorry.
I immigrated to Canada at the age of 32,
How long ago?
17 years ago.
Yes.
But I can't see that I am Canadian. I have passport Canadian, but
Yeah.
I belong to my country. Okay, but my kids they are Canadian. Okay, but in my mind I never said that I am Canadian.
You're not Canadian?
No, I am from Morocco. I am Moroccan.
You're Moroccan.
Yes, my culture is I am integrated to this culture. In Canada, yes, I have double citizenship.
Kids, if you want to play and talk, can you go outside? Girls, yeah. If you want to play, you can go play out there if you like, okay? All right. I'm having a hard time sort of focusing with okay, sorry, go ahead. So you're Moroccan and you're
When
not
I asked
Canadian.
My daughter Ines and Yazid, they said they are Canadian.
Okay.
Because they were born here.
Okay, so that's your take on it.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so when it comes to stresses of parenting, you know, the struggle we all have with ourselves is number one. Okay? And some of this, and I'm going to reiterate that the struggles include many of these factors. And unless we're able to come to some terms with ourselves, you will struggle to rear another human being. What are you going to teach that child? How to deal with these issues? Because these are not, this is not going away. Disrupted community, language barrier, lack of family support, you know, they everyday struggles for most people that come from another country. If you look at websites that support immigrants to this country, irrespective of whether you're Muslim or not, irrespective of what ethnicity you are, that those are common problems that most immigrants face. So while you're struggling with all this, you're trying to raise your children in that sort of environment where these issues occur. And you know, what you feel and how you respond reflects on your children. So we think we are maintaining a good, strong presence. We are, you know, maintaining some stability for our children. But if you're experiencing turmoil or difficulty because of any of these things, children, you know, they talk about nonverbal communication. How much of what our children pick up is nonverbal. What do you think? If you know how children respond, nonverbal communication is what percent do you think of our communication versus verbal?
80%.
Yeah, 70 to 80%. So a lot of what is not said and a lot of what you feel is often perceived by the child. Okay? So the other issues that we haven't touched on, and I think is very important in our community. Am I running short of time, Imam?
No, just one.
How many minutes do I have? Okay. The other issue that I haven't touched on is a big one, is when people from our community come from conflict areas. Okay, whether that conflict was war, or whether it was persecution of Muslims and you left there, or whether it was, what else? What kind of conflicts do they have? I don't think it's economic conflict, mainly war, right? Or you feared for your life. Or some people have been in refugee camps and they had some horrible experiences, or being physically abused, imprisoned, or, we see people from all backgrounds come to this country. Many of these people who experience this torture, or these, not necessarily torture, but these traumas, you're coming here, the first thing you feel is relief, but the scars you bear from that, from the trauma, and the effects of the trauma don't just necessarily disappear. Okay? So you're carrying that scars, and you're carrying that psychological trauma. And when we work with children, and we often see what happens to the parent often is seen as a symptom in the child. So when I worked in child psychiatry, what I did see was those children that had a lot of anxiety, behavioral problems, okay? We call them oppositional defiant disorder, for example, or conduct disorder. I'll talk about that in another lecture, but they have a lot of behavioral difficulty, or they don't listen, or they're aggressive, or they're doing things that are very antisocial. Often that is related to what's happening in the home and the parent-child relationship. You may have normalized what you experienced and how you are functioning, but it may bear some assessment of what is happening in here for you and what is happening in here. Okay? So a lot of what we call pathology in the child is often linked to parents, the mother or the father experiencing some distress themselves. Okay? So it's quite a broad range of things I've talked about today, but I just wanted to give you a taste of the scope of the problem. That it's not just, when you're stressed, I want you to exercise, I want you to do some mindfulness techniques and relaxation. I can say that. Relaxation techniques, mindfulness techniques. You can join a group and feel, you're part of a community. You need to talk to your children differently. All of that is true. But I think in immigrant communities, there are some unique issues. And those unique issues require unique solutions. So that's enough for today. Any questions?
What I really wanted Sister to do, first of all, there are a few reasons why we wrote Sister Dr. Asif here. Is to say, hey, alhamdulillah, we have experts in our community, and they are sisters too. It's number one, to give them a platform to be part of the community, and that we show some sort of courtesy to them. Number two is that we have experts whom we can talk to. We can go and knock the door and say, please could you help me? Because we all need help. I needed help. When I came from Bosnia, as Sister is talking, I didn't know where my head is. Challenges, bills, kids. So I needed some support. mental support. I need a circle of people. Do you think I would be here where I am if I didn't have that? No, wallahi, I'm not. If I didn't have a backup of people supporting me. And that's the reason why myself or many of us, when somebody comes to me and says, Nazir, I need help, I can't say no. Why? Because I know when I came here, people came to me. What Sister Dr. Asif is telling us basically is that we as Canadian Muslims, doesn't matter how much we are diverse, we do have certain uniqueness. Unique problems that need to be tackled with unique solutions. Unique solutions. And I know, example, in counseling that I do with our community, many people come here and many people say, Mamzir, is this confidential? And I tell them, yes. Wallahi, I tell them, it is confidential. Even my wife doesn't know that you have been here. So I don't tell people, people do have stigmatic thinking, oh, maybe somebody will know about it. So I think, let us inshallah give, some thought about this. If you do have any comment that will inshallah push this forward, because I want the next session to be geared towards a particular issue. And particular, one point, and we want to drill it down and we want to benefit from it. When we go out of this room, we would have one solution for one problem. And you know what? If you start developing those solutions for one problem, I'm telling you, at the end of the month, alhamdulillah, you will have 4 solutions for 4 problems and you're already very rich. Sister Dr. Asif, thank you very much. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you, inshallah.
Thank you. I just have one last comment is, we're trying to build a support system for all of us, right? So your struggle, and the other thing to keep in mind is the struggles that each one of us is experiencing is unique to you and as well not unique to you, because many of us are struggling. Irrespective of what education you have and how much money you have or where you come from, every one of us has a struggle. And you mentioned correctly, supports is number 1. So how do we build support for these issues? Thank you.
Inshallah, if you do have any suggestion, you can always send your suggestions to imam@snmc.ca or info@snmc.ca. And if you do have a suggestion about a particular topic that you would like to deal with, inshallah, we'll be more than happy to deal with that. Only in September, inshallah, there is a lineup of speakers. In October, inshallah, we hope we will have Sister Dr. Asif again. We are having a first week of September, Sister Nimao, is it Ali? Principal of high school of Abrar School. She's new. Yes, she will be coming here and talking to us about education for kids. Second Friday of September, we will have Dr. Asha Shirazi talking about issues related to education, schooling, and parenting. The third week, we would have Dr. Salim, principal of elementary, Abrar Elementary School, who will be talking basically about gadgets, social media. And then inshallah we will be having Dr. Irfan Sheikh, with whom I have been working for 12 years back in BC. He moved here with his wife. He will be inshallah talking. He was principal of largest high school in BC, Muslim. And alhamdulillah, he has experience in that area. He's going to tell us how we as parents could help our kids, assist them with high schools. Yes, Sister Jonah.
I just wanted to say thank you to Sister. I feel it's just the beginning. You were just scratching on the very surface. And I really appreciate that SNMC and Imam Ziad has taken this initiative to bring expert like you. I'm very proud of it. And I hope to see you again and again. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.